This is Michelle DeLateur with Breezeway Productions coming to you from the premiere of King Cole at the Sundance Film Festival. Stay tuned for our conversations. We're looking forward to it.
Elaine McMillion Sheldon, the director of King Cole.
There it was. I was going to ask you. I know who you are, but the people who have the pleasure of viewing this may not know who you are. I'm really excited. I've seen this film. I'm really excited for other people to see this film. What would you like people to know about this film as they enter today to watch it for the very first time?
Oh, I guess I would just ask people to be open to a new cinematic language that draws upon old cinematic languages and tells a new story of a region that I love. Just to be open to the new form.
You said new story. I know you've covered this story, or at least Cole-adjacent stories, in different ways. Why a feature documentary this round versus your transmedia pieces or your other short docs that you've done in the past?
Yeah, well, this is a personal documentary in many ways. It's narrated by me, a coal miner's daughter, and I just felt that was the best way to sort of tackle the question of the future, since I have a stake in the future, and it's hard to tell a story of a region that's so diverse and big, but I tell it in a personal way, which is kind of my only way into it.
You know this because I talked to you yesterday about it. I call this an experience, versus a film. Is that an accurate description of this, or how else would you describe it for someone coming in to watch it today?
Yeah, I think that we wanted it to be an experience, a sound and image experience, one that, feels visceral, feels emotional, doesn't really teach you as much as just lets you in on some snippets of life that maybe you don't even know exist around the coal industry. So this is definitely not your typical film about coal. It's about culture and identity and belonging, change and grief. And so I hope it is an experience as much as it is a film.
Totally. And you've catered a lot of relationships throughout your work with these characters. I'm using the word characters because it feels like that in this film. How did you come back to them for this? Or have you filmed them for a number of years, came back to them for this project? How did you get them involved in this project this round?
Yeah, well, Appalachia is my home, and it's full of people I love and people that trust me, and I try to keep that trust safe and keep in touch. And one of them even called me this morning from a previous film, who's in this film as well, and just congratulated me. And really, it's like a family. It's an extended family, the people that allow you into their lives and tell those stories. And so you just have to foster those relationships because they're at the center of all the nonfiction we make.
And thank you for allowing us in your life through this story, because you are so ingrained in this through your narration and your story. Thank you. We're here at the premiere of King Cole with
Shane Boris.
And Shane Boris, what is your role in this film?
I'm a producer of the film.
What was it about this project that drew you to take part in this project?
I first met Elaine through Sundance, actually, and when she told me the idea for what the film was, I was immediately blown away. Her integrity and intention to tell a story of Appalachia, the place she comes from and cares so deeply about, and to create a vision of how to tell new stories for herself and for the region was just incredible for me. And I always love to work with directors that are the only person that can tell this story. And Elaine has done it masterfully, poetically, telling her story and telling that story that's representative of something much larger than herself, too.
And how is the story told for folks who haven't seen this film yet or who are seeing it today for the very first time?
Yeah, it's told through Elaine's own voice and her own writing and her own experiences growing up in Appalachia and living there for most of her life. It's a magical realist story that kind of moves between a fairy tale and a ghost story and then a straight ahead verite documentary. So it really plays with the form as an intention to not only tell new stories but create new ways of telling new stories.
What should viewers do, or audience members, upon watching this film? Should they visit the region? Should they tell their own personal stories? What do you think audience members will do after watching today or just watching in the future, watching this film?
I think what I really take away is that we have an opportunity to be proud of who we are and where we've come from, but also to imagine better ways of living and new ways of living. And I think that balance, that tension that exists in all of our lives is profoundly important, and it gives us an opportunity to care for where we come from, care for our history, but also make our town, our country, our world in accordance with a vision we have for something better.
That's an incredible place to end. What drew you to this film project in particular?
I just think this film has such a beautiful and poetic voice and story about place and identity, and it really just spoke to me in a really emotional way.
Are you from this area? Or have you been to this area? Are you familiar with the area that this documentary is about?
I'm from the East Coast, so but I'm not from the area, and we spent quite a bit of time there during filming and during post. So I've grown to just love that region, and I think it's just such a beautiful place.
When I watched this film, I called it an experience, kind of more than a film. I know the description of it is kind of like a hybrid narrative documentary. How would you describe the project yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a hybrid film, where it feels like a documentary, and definitely, but we're definitely playing with form a little bit, and and adding some more magical realism elements and some sort of creative, uses of sound design and music and things like that.
So I caught up. I loved some of the sound design, the breaths and the timing and the pacing and the cut to the barge after the harmonica or whatever on that front. How did you guys come up with that pacing? Are you part of that team in terms of the sound design, or talk to me about that?
I mean, I feel like that's really an Elaine question, because she worked so closely with Shodake, who's our breath artist in the film, and he's incredibly talented. But I think she wanted to come up with like a really different sort of soundscape, that felt really authentic.
Peggy Drexler.
And Peggy Drexler, what role have you played in this film?
I have been a producer, and I've done many films, but this has been by far the most exciting.
Why is that?
Yeah, because of the team and the subject, and the fact that I think that this is really going to do something to make people aware of the region and how they can help.
People who watch this film, how can they help then? How can they help after they watch this film?
Oh, there's many ways, and I will, obviously there's complicated ways, but Elaine, the director, would be more suited to answer that than I would. But this is her region, her town, her vision, and I think she'd be fabulous at letting people know how they can help or what they can do.
How would you describe her vision and this project for folks who've never watched it yet or who are watching it today for the very first time?
This is a vision of the present and a vision of the future. How the Appalachia region has fared through coal mining, but also what we can hope for them, what we can hope for the environment, how we can protect the environment, and how important it is in terms of this whole region.